Daniel Ricciardo has been criticised yet again by Helmut Marko, and this time it seems like the veteran Austrian advisor in Red Bull has offered the greatest hint he could have when it comes to the drivers' lineup from 2025 onwards. With drivers like Lawson and Hadjar waiting in the background for some of the veterans to slip, what happened with Perez was a huge disappointment to them, but now they're eager to see how the entire situation with Ricciardo and Racing Bulls will unfold after the latest comments from Marko. With this in mind, is the only chance of Ricciardo's career in Formula One gone by the extending of Perez's stay for at least the beginning of 2025? And furthermore, how can Ricciardo salvage his own career? It's safe to say that Ricciardo is one of the hottest topics in the Formula One world right now, with all the right reasons. He has a seat that has been more or less secured after all of the latest drama with Red Bull, with Marko saying that both Perez and Ricciardo are staying in their seats, only for Marko to then go out in public and preach another narrative regarding Ricciardo's future. When talking about the situation with Ricciardo, Marko said Daniel was put in the car, and if he would have been significantly faster than Yuki, there was an idea to bring him back to Red Bull Racing, but he also had this up and down so far. He didn't fulfill the criteria to be a Red Bull Racing driver. To put this into perspective, it seems like Marko is referring to the first 7 races of the season when Tsunoda was able to completely outperform his teammate, and from round 8 to round 14, even though Ricciardo had been the better overall driver in terms of qualifying and race finishes, both of the drivers scored the same number of points. Therefore, we can't see something extraordinary faster here, and that might be the most important thing for Daniel's future right now, which is why it's hanging in the air, and maybe he isn't even the best choice to replace Perez after all. Marko has opened up about this question, and while his stance was quite controversial and frankly insulting to everyone in the Red Bull camp except for Perez, it does also put Ricciardo's ultimate goal and future career at huge risk. The veteran Austrian was asked as to why they kept Perez as the second driver next to Verstappen when there was so much talk about a potential replacement, to which he replied, Perez doesn't need to get faster, just more consistent, and given the alternatives, he is still our best option. We believe that we can turn it around and make the car more stable for him. To be a teammate to Max is not the nicest thing in Formula One. Checo has his merits, he's won races. The more difficult the car is to drive, the more the difference to Max comes out, because he is such an outstanding talent. He had some very good results, very good performances, then the next day he was half a second off Max or so. There is a lot to be comprehended from this statement from Marko, starting by the fact that from saying that Perez totally collapsed in Spa to defending him and saying that the car isn't stable enough for him, there must be something murky going on behind closed doors. Red Bull have even considered bringing the old spec RB20 back for the Mexican driver, which is something they've never done for drivers who did far better in far worse cars like Gasly and Albon back in 2019 and 2021. If the support from Perez sponsors as well as Liberty Media is that strong, then it's safe to assume that money definitely talks in Formula One, and they are right now probably the only factor that are keeping Perez's career, not just in Red Bull, but in Formula One in general, alive. Perez has also opened up about all of the speculations about his future in Red Bull, stating that he's aware of what is being talked about for him, but as of now he's putting them in the same speculation basket as everything else that's happened until this moment. And judging by everything Red Bull did in the past couple of weeks, we're sorry to say, but it is indeed speculation. They promised Max to have a new teammate from Zandvoort onwards. We've seen him and Ricciardo celebrating on the helicopter, only for Red Bull to go on and state otherwise one day after Spa on Monday. So in the very core of it, at least in front of the media, it does look like Perez's future hanging by a thread is just speculation talks. And elaborating further on this matter, he said, yes, I am totally aware of my situation. I know my contract. I just renewed it a while ago. So everything else is pure speculation. I am totally focused. I don't even think about the contract. I am focused on getting my season back to where we deserve deserve it as a team. And that is the entire focus, and those have been all the conversations we have had with the team and how we get back to where we were at the beginning of the season. Everything else, there is a lot of speculation in all the media and perhaps also comments that have been made unnecessarily. When you have drivers like Tsunoda, Lawson and even Ricciardo waiting in the background, and you're effectively P8 in the Drivers' Championship, had it not been for the disqualification of Russell in Spa, then a lot needs to be fixed in the team's chemistry and collaboration, because right now it does feel like everybody can perform better than Perez in the car. What was also noted is that the test that Lawson did in Silverstone was quite satisfying, and the lap times was something that impressed Red Bull, which is why Helmut believes that from 2025 onwards, Lawson will have a seat, and from his latest statements, it's likely to come at the expense of Daniel Ricciardo. The entire situation with Lawson is quite complicated, and what is known as of now is that the New Zealander has been through a lot of promises from Red Bull, but none of them came true. Obviously, Marko has admitted that there is a clause in his contract that allows him to go elsewhere if Red Bull do not secure him a seat in one of the two teams in 2025. And while a seat directly in Red Bull would be kind of weird, as Tsunoda said, the goal was always Racing Bulls for the Kiwi, and he could be quite happy with how everything is currently unfolding down with Ricciardo and Red Bull, because judging by Marko's statements, there is a lot more to come for him down the pipeline. As the veteran Austrian went on to say, "We rate Lawson high and he will get his chance. Just wait, in September you will have an answer. It has been planned for some time that he would be able to gain more F1 experience in Imola. Even though the competition would like to use him on loan, he is not available for that." This is quite a strong statement after revealing the clause in his contract, because it effectively puts Lawson off the market, while teams like Audi were focused on signing him on a long-term basis. Whether we like it or not, Marko's words are slowly but surely becoming a reality, because he also stated the wishes of Racing Bulls shareholders, saying that they want two young drivers in the team, despite all of the experience that Ricciardo brings with himself, as well as the marketing value. But Ricciardo himself is not really scared of being let down from Racing Bulls, and his stance is that the involvement he's had in the past couple of months came as a surprise to him, something that is pushing him for more success with the Faenza-based squad. Whether it's a bit too late for this, time will tell, but Ricciardo is quite adamant that the progress that's been made inside the team is something that turned it into a squad that can no longer call itself a junior team or a sister team, because they're making big boy moves. Furthermore, Ricciardo said, "It does feel different in terms of how I am involved in the team's decisions, and we got a new look and with this and that, but your actions have to follow. You bring in new ideas. The new management spent time in other teams and organizations, and yeah, it's just a new way of looking at things." I think that in itself, and their intentions and the way they go about it, has made people kind of stand up and say, all right, this isn't a junior team anymore. We're making kind of big boy decisions, and we're taking risks, and we're setting targets and high targets, and ones that we realistically think that we can attain. All of this points towards the fact that while everything seems stable on the surface, it's far from it, and a huge shake-up is waiting for us either later this year or somewhere from 2025 onwards, and we are all here for it. With all this in mind, do you think that Ricciardo has just lost his seat in Racing Bulls? And more importantly, do you think that the only way for him to survive in F1 is to replace Perez, who will have a lot of mouths to shut in the remainder of 2024? Let us know down in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.